Alongside John Foster, arguing in favour of alternative votes, is Megan Stodel. Megan Stodel is a campaigner for the SUAV, spokesman for that organisation. She's also a student at Bristol University, and she's the third student there to study English. On the no side, we're very happy to have Jacob Rees-Mogg MP. Jacob was elected to the constituency of North East Somerset in May. Jacob is on the European Scrutiny Committee and the Procedure Committee within the House of Commons. Jacob has stood for elections a couple of times previously to this and has worked in investment managers since he left university. Next door to Don, next door to Jacob, we have another Don Collier. Hopefully that won't get too confusing. Don Collier is a representative of the No to AD campaign. Don is the councillor for the Conservative Party in Paul. He is also stood to become a member of the European Parliament in previous elections for the South West. On top of these two speakers, we have Susan Milner. I'm very happy to have her here. Susan is from the politics department at the University of Bath. She teaches comparative politics and European politics at Bath. I'm going to go to Susan first. She's going to explain exactly what alternative vote is for people who aren't aware and how it can differ from the current system of first past the post. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Susan.
Thank you. So very briefly, I'm going to talk about two methods of voting. I'm not going to be talking about proportional representation systems. Both of these systems I'm going to be talking about are majority systems of various kinds. That is, they seek to obtain the election of a candidate who's won a majority, whether that's a relative or absolute majority in a given seat. So first past the post, which is the system we currently have, or as we academics like to call it, simple plurality voting, the winning candidate is simply the candidate who gets the most votes in a given district or constituency. So that could be an absolute majority or a relative majority of seats. The advantages of that are that, as the name suggests, it's a simple system. You know roughly what the outcome is going to be of a vote, especially if you know what the aggregate preferences are. It tends to produce a more accountable system in that you vote for your local MP who's tied to a constituency. It tends often to produce stable majorities in Parliament, although not always. Disadvantages are largely around disproportionate power and disproportionate disadvantage. So larger parties are disproportionately advantaged, smaller parties are disproportionately disadvantaged. So in the British case, for example, the Liberal Democrats have been particularly disadvantaged under this system in recent years, with around about 22%, 23% of the votes getting between 3% and 10% of seats in recent elections. Also, this system can waste votes in the sense that if you don't vote for a winning candidate, then your vote just disappears. So on to the proposed new system, alternative vote, a version of preferential voting in which voters just don't vote for one candidate but can express preferences. So they rank their preferences in that order. In a full preferential system, if you have 5 candidates, then you vote them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In an optional system, which is the one that's proposed currently, the ranking or the number of candidates you vote for is up to you. So you can still stick to voting for one candidate or 2 or 3. Now, as in the first past the post system, if the candidate gets an absolute majority, i.e. 50% at the first round, then that candidate is elected. If not, then the lowest placed candidate, everybody follow me? The lowest placed candidate is eliminated, and the second preference votes for that candidate are then redistributed, and so on and so forth, until we have a candidate who reaches this magical threshold of 50% of the votes. So,
sorry, just to explain what's happening. You probably saw I should have explained. The journalist did a quick introduction, and now he's going to take, for the news programme, they're going to ask quickly Don Collier and Jacob Rees-Mogg a 20-second bit. The idea is that we continue on the background, which is trying to look casual. And it shouldn't take up too much time, and hopefully after it we can get back to our questions.
Look, we're right. If you guys just keep vaguely quiet, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Can we get ABS when we get it afterwards?
Yeah, you can take questions, but obviously can you be as quiet as possible from this? I think I'm waiting for this bit.
Well, the current system is outdated, it's broken. Fewer than a third of the members of Parliament gets elected with more than 50% of the vote. So it means the majority of us are actually represented by people who have voted. The alternative vote will get rid of safe seats, get rid of tactical voting, and it will mean that every vote will count, and therefore it's a much fairer system.
The result is very straightforward. The person with the most votes wins, and every vote counts equally. If he doesn't get rid of safe seats, they would remain in much the same way. It's a simple system, everyone understands it, and the person with the most votes wins.
I'm sure we're all pleased to a very big turnout here tonight, but it hasn't excited the public, has it? Why is that?
Well, I think we're about 4 weeks away from the election time we have. And one of the things I think all of us do, both Jacob, myself and others on the other side of the fence we are on this, is to say to people, this is the first time in a very large number of years that people have a chance to go out and have their say, not the politicians, have their say, whether or not
People are missing out.
But then there's a point there, there's ways of making it the amount of data we spend, we should stick with the system we've got, and so rather than either adopt this later on
Okay, I apologise for interruption. Normally, your TV. So to continue on, we're going to hand straight back to Susan, who was in the middle of explaining the difference between both votes and alternative votes.
okay, so you're asking again about alternative votes. I think, as you may have overheard there, in the current system, around a third of MPs in Britain are elected with 50% or more of the vote, so 2/3 aren't. So what that would mean then, if we had an alternative vote, would be that the lowest placed candidate, however many there are in a constituency standing, would be eliminated, and their votes, the second preference votes, would be transferred to the other candidate. And then a new total is reached, and then if the winning candidate has 50% or more of the vote, then that person is elected. If not, then the next person is eliminated. If there are only 3 candidates standing and the first person has already been eliminated, then third, fourth, fifth preferences would come into play. So that you have a system of transfer of second, third preferences until you have a candidate with 50% or more of the vote. Is that reasonably clear? I could give some examples, but it gets a bit difficult then because I don't want to start naming relevant parties. So advantages. Well, main advantage I think is that it lessens this problem of wasted votes, because if you're voting then for a candidate who isn't elected, as we've seen, say, in these 2/3 of cases, then you have another stab at expressing a preference, even if it's not your first preference.